Hello again, it's Randy, your sewing machine man. What we're going to do today is look at this little machine that represents a problematic situation with shredding thread and breaking the top thread and what will cause it, and getting the plastic 66 class Apollo bobbin back in place once you've got it out of there. Doing this by request because I have a customer who's not in my service area and they need some help and they don't have it close by, so we're going to try to help them out if we can. When the machines shred the upper thread, it's usually something obvious if you know what you're looking for. And first thing you do, of course, is you want to take your bobbin case out, and by doing that, you notice here it says no screwdriver. No screwdriver, which means leave these screws alone. That sets your thread gap to make sure thread slide through. Over on the left hand side, you see this little slot. That is for opening this little gate up. It's spring loaded, and you swing it to the left. Of course, lifting your bobbin out first helps. And your bobbin case comes out. It sits right in there on this little lip. The bobbin case sits right in there on that little platform. This sits right on there. So there's the right half of the circle, left half of the circle. It goes in, and it's not a strength move, it's a finesse move getting it in and out. You just swing that to the left, and you just drop that in. It sits on top of this right here, and you put it in like so. So it slides underneath this front piece here, and you slide this part here, goes up underneath this black, goes underneath that, and then this part up here lays on top of this silver piece. So what you do, swing your little gate there about the 11 o'clock position, swing it open as far as it'll go. Then I hold it like so, and I slide it in underneath. Of course, I'm trying to work around this camera, so it makes it a little tougher for me, but it slides in like so, and it has to move back and forth. Every time you take a stitch, it moves left, right, left, right, left, right. The thread sweeps around. That's called your thread gap. You don't use a screwdriver on this screw or this screw. You leave this area alone. Of course, when you have this thing out, what you want to always do is check around the outside of it to make sure there are no, put the screwdriver too far, it won't work. You check around the outside to make sure there's no snags, no bumps. Make sure that everything's nice and smooth. Otherwise, it'll catch the thread. It'll cause it to snag, cause it to jam, and you'll get a mess there. Of course, whenever you put a machine back together, you always put a drop of oil on the hook assembly, whether it's a 15 class, whether it's a 66, whether it's a drop in, front load, side load. You should always put a drop of oil on your hook itself. And speaking of the hook, when the point comes around, there's the point right there. You always check the point to see if there's a burr. Run your finger across it, back to front, fingernail, both sides. If you catch a little burr, you'll know that it needs to be polished off with a little piece of emery cloth or crocus cloth or whatever it takes as far as the size goes. You may even need a file if it's a real bad one, but put your bobbin case back in, slide it underneath. You can tell it's a finesse move. It doesn't just want to just jump in there for you, but you have to have the back and forth movement. Now, once you've established that that's all smooth, you check your needle plate, look around your needle plate opening, front and back, make sure it doesn't have any jags or burrs or gashes where the needle's been banging on it. If it does, polish it off with a file, a diamond file. A metal file will just make music. A diamond file will actually cut in there. A metal file will just be back and forth like a saw. So, put this back in place. And the last place you always want to check on these, especially with these plastic shrouds, is up under here. See, when you thread the thread, it comes down, it goes to this loop. A lot of the newer machines don't have this threading loop here. Everything that touches the thread has to be metal. And they've got it down to where almost everything that touches a thread is metal. Nowadays they're doing away with things just like this, and the thread guide in front of the needle. This is gone on a lot of newer machines. This is gone. So the thread is going straight from the take-up lever down to the eye of the needle, and it's whipping around in there. And anything it touches is going to cut a groove. If it finds a rough spot, it'll grab it. Like this machine is all, the shroud is all plastic. And of course when you're sewing, this sits up against where the thread goes, and the thread will actually cut a little groove. It'll catch any kind of a molding imperfection. And you can feel them along here. You can feel that. If the thread catches that, it'll lay in there and it'll start cutting a groove. And then the thread will find that as you're sewing, and it'll just start peeling back the thread. So always take your side cover off and look for the edges like that one right there. And get your file if you have a file. Smooth it off. Get it smooth, as long as there's nothing there sticking up. If you have to get some emery cloth, it's really a grouchy thing. You want to really get after it. Get some emery fine. You can get that at the Home Depot or Lowe's in the paint department. Smooth it that way. And of course, you want to make sure it's super smooth. You polish it up with crocus cloth, ultra fine weight crocus cloth, and you get it nice and shiny, so it's absolutely smooth, and there's nothing that's going to grab the thread. If it grabs the thread's going to lay in there, it's going to cut a groove, it's going to start shredding it, and it'll really frustrate you. But now you know what to look for. I would recommend, if you have one of these, be shopping for a better one. But if it's all you got and it's the best you can do, you want to make sure it works for you. So smooth out your plastic. Don't disturb your thread gap. And of course, make sure your bobbin is installed properly, turning counterclockwise in the groove, in the slot, back to the right. You're ready to go.